I just did a little Rockwell test there. You can maybe just see the dimple, and it's a 64.5, which is, you know, so I'm going to put this into temper now for a couple of hours and get it down to about 40-45. The temperature will be around 400 centigrade that it needs to get down to the springiness that I want. Hey guys, hope everyone's okay. Happy New Year to you all. Okay, today I'm going to complete this folding knife, and I made this blade in 2017, and it's been sitting in a box waiting for me to finish it, and today I'm going to finish it. If you go, I'll put a link below to the video where I make a folding knife template, and that is exactly how I've done this. I've made the spring, I think it's a piece of 1095. It's that long ago I can't remember, but yesterday I heat treated it. It was a very simple heat treat, just with a torch. Get it up to non-magnetic, quench it in a little tin of oil. It achieved 64.5 Rockwell. I then tempered it back with the torch till I got to around 47 Rockwell, which is just fine for a spring. I then put it on the surface grinder and ground in the profile and fitted it to the actual blade itself. Okay, so first of all I need to position my spring so that the liner covers it. It's going to sit there, somewhere there, and put a hole obviously in there. Put an 8mm hole in that. For the phosphor bronze bush. Put a 5mm hole into the board, which I will put a 5mm pin. I've got the 8mm hole in the brass liners. I will stick the liners and the bronze shim on. We'll fit the blade and place the spring. Okay, so to mark this in the position it needs to be in, which is there, I take a pin, a drill bit, which I've just taken to a point. I literally just want to mark that brass. And the drill bit is obviously the same size as the pinholes. That's all I need, that little tiny mark there. Okay, so drill that. Also put a hole in the board so that I can locate that little pin in there, and it's good and steady. Right, we're looking good here. Now what I have to do is put some tension on the spring, and I do that by pushing up. You can see how the spring flexes, and I kind of determine that by literally just putting a bit of flex on and seeing what that tension is like. What I will usually do is just put a little bar in there or something, so that I can just put some tension on the spring itself. And that there actually feels really good. So I will lock my pin in with that when I find my drill bit, which is there. Yeah, so that's where I'm going, and I'll give that a tap so I can drill the second hole. I'll go and drill that one. I do these one at a time, because if you try and do all three at once, I've just had loads of failures trying to drill all three pins, so just do them one at a time. So that's number 2 done. Put a pin in that. Put the pin in that one. You can see that is really nice now. Nice tension on the spring. So what I've got to do now is put a little lock pin. It's not a lock pin, it's a stop pin. So as the blade comes round, it will stop the blade hitting the back of the spring, and about there looks good. A little sharpening notch I will put there. And I will put another hole in there. So there we go, all holes drilled. I'll just put one of the little shims on there. It'll snug that hole. You'll see it just stops that just in the right place there. And there's not so much tension on that I can't open the blade. That's perfect. So now, what I need to do is put the bolsters on each side of this. But first of all, I'm just going to mark out the brass and take off the excess that I don't need. And I'm going to shape the front of the blade, and I'm going to bring it round there somewhere. With all the pins in, I've taken the bushing out, and I've got a couple of little pieces of brass here. It's about, what, 3mm is it? 2.27 mil. I'm going to use them on the fronts to thicken the front up. What I'm going to do is I am going to super glue that on, so they'll be soldered and pinned onto there. But before I do that, I want to shape this part here, just so I've not got a straight flat front on. So I want to put a little shape into that, and it wants to be identical on each side. So I need to lock them two together with a bit of super glue. Put a dab of super glue on there, then I can shape them. Okay, so I'll go and shape that on the belt sander. Okay, so this is my way of keeping the liners perfectly in place with the centre of that pin. So I've put the bushing in, and I've put a couple of pins in there to lock and hold everything together, so that I can take the bushing out, nothing will move, and then I can put that on there so that it is absolutely central. I'm going to put a dab of super glue on that to hold it all together. Then I'll turn the blade around and do the same on the other side. A lot of this here is being removed, so put a big blob of glue there, just one on that corner. Yeah, perfectly central for the bush and the pin there. See, beautiful. Do the same there now, because it's, without that locking in place, it's easy to get that just off centre, that hole just off centre. And if you do that, your bushing isn't going to go in. To do this side is slightly easier, really, because you can just drop the liner on top. So just a loose assembly fit up here, and just see how everything goes together, and looks really nice. Yeah, we're good. So I can shape these now. I was going to put a back bolster on, but I don't think I'm going to bother. I think I'm just going to run the wood right to the back on this. I'm just going to run a little bit of soft solder in there, guys, just to fix that on. So what I ended up doing was cutting out the brass to the profile I wanted, just a millimetre or two over size, then ran the soft solder all the way around because I figured I'd be soft soldering it all anyway. And I probably will still put a couple of little brass pins in there, but I may just put them through from the back so that they're not visible on the surface. And since I've done that and cut the shape exactly how I want it, and the blade is now profiled, literally just put it on the grinder and ground the spine down so everything is flush. You can see the joint there, which is really nice. What I had to do, I had to put the blade back onto the surface grinder because the little shims I'd put in, they just weren't big enough. They were a skinny little shim, and I just literally picked the shims out my shim box. And the two shims I'd made before, which were the last time I used them, they were too skinny, so I've now binned them and I made up a couple of shims that were thicker. You can see the thickness of them scales, there's virtually nothing. Now the wood I'm going to use is this piece of laburnum. You can see that I've had this piece of wood for about 6 or 7 years, and I just think it's so unique and beautiful that I've just got to use this. Because I'm going to take two little thin slivers of this off on the bandsaw, I should be able to retain that pattern so it matches on each side. I know I keep saying this, but I am just so impressed with that surface grinder, the finish it gives. Then that is literally straight off the surface grinder. No flattening off, no paper, no polishing, nothing. It's really impressive.